He's creating an army in the nation's capital, not just of D.C. police, but they happen to all be southern states. It's reasonable unless it's unconstitutional. When the Democrats lose, it's like, oh, we lost, enjoy. When the Republicans lose, they don't do that, and they never will do that.
If you watched our morning episode, you saw us cover some of this Bill Maher episode. Go check it out if you haven't already. There won't be any spoilers though, but there was a few more moments in there of MAGA getting owned that I wanted to cover, so I thought we could finish it off here. If you can, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out tremendously. It lets us know you enjoy the content, so take a second if you can, and let's get right to the discussion.
I think California schools and New York schools and Oklahoma schools and Florida schools should all be different. That's why we have 50 states. That's why we have the system that we have. And I'm fine with Oklahoma having a different system and making sure that their teachers reflect that. But what if the public is wrong? And what if the public and their belief goes against what the Constitution says? For example, this guy wants to put the 10 Commandments in the school. But that's not what the Constitution says. It says we don't have any state religion. Can we put the Quran in there? Well, look, the 10 Commandments is a contested legal question, and we'll see if they take it to the Supreme Court. We'll see what the outcome is. But I think that the point is that...
But what do you think?
Is that they're saying that they want to have Oklahoma schools that reflect the values of the people in the state. That's a completely reasonable thing. And look,
it's reasonable unless it's unconstitutional.
Well, it's very much so unconstitutional. It's also like inconsiderate. Imagine how all the non-Christian students would feel where, again, I mean, separation of church and state. Again, can a school put up a Quran or a Torah? Like, they would have all the problems with that because Christianity is the one that's special and right. Sure, guys. Why is it the clowns, however, that pretend to care so much about indoctrination of children that always want to excuse it when it comes to Christianity, which is maybe the most insanely coercive form of indoctrination, where kids are literally told, if you're not a good little cult member, you're going to burn in an eternal pit of hell. Like, you and everyone you love will be unhappy for your entire lives and then burn and suffer. But we want this taught to children, not indoctrination, but saying like, hey, trans people exist. That's a step too far, total indoctrination. Give me a break. And maybe this is a hot take from me, but I disagree. I don't think schools should be different, right? I think it's crazy that we leave as much up to the states as we do, especially when so many red states just fail their kids in education completely because they're way more focused on tax cuts for the wealthy adults.
I don't understand how holding up, I think it's up to $2.6 billion in research money to Harvard, most of which is going not to the humanities, not to the social sciences, which is where you find stuff like critical race theory, but it's being held up from actual scientific research. I don't see how that connects with the complaint. I don't see how it connects with anti-Semitism. I also think it's really dangerous.
It doesn't.
There's been a lot of debates.
It doesn't.
No, there's been a lot of debates about international students.
No,
right?
It doesn't connect. Trump very often identifies something that is a real problem and then goes about monkeying with it in just the wrong way.
Yeah, so you have a headache, here's some leeches. That's the way it goes. You know, it's like...
Close, but I do disagree. Bill Maher has to give credence to his anti-academia propaganda that he loves to spew. I think Trump, MAGA, they will correctly identify symptoms from a larger issue, but then they'll go wrong in their assessment of what drives those symptoms, right? They see crime being a problem in big cities, but blame it on Democrats because some of the cities are blue, right? They see wages being kept largely stagnant over multiple decades and blame immigrants who are in the same boat with them. Like, with academia, I'm a lot less sympathetic to this problem. Like, do problems exist? Yes, of course. Most of the people mentioning this don't know what those are, but most of the attacks on it are disingenuous, especially when they come from power or money, something that intelligence, right? Like the awareness, critical thinking, deductive reasoning, the ability to induce stuff, like it acts as a counterbalance to that. So when you have capital pushing back against academia, it's like, maybe that's a little less reason that's something I should jump on. When you have elites pushing back against academia, it's like, historically, it's not the smartest thing to do.
He's creating an army in the nation's capital, not just of D.C. police, but they happen to all be southern states, Operation Happy Coincidence. And I just think the presence now of this army in Washington is going to have its toll taken when the next election comes around. Because, we have a very asymmetrical way of doing elections. When the Democrats lose, it's like, oh, we lost, enjoy. When the Republicans lose, they don't do that. And they never will do that. Not in the age of Trump. Maybe it'll revert. I don't think so. But whoever is the candidate next time, and of course, this week we also saw him giving out hats that said Trump 2028.
This is the other insane curve that Trump gets graded on that drives me crazy. Like, Democrats are constantly under a lens. If they say anything even slightly wrong, no charitability is given to them. And oh, look, they went mask off. Finally, they've revealed their true forms. Yet when Trump time and time again muses in unconstitutional or indefensible ways, it's always, ha, that's Trump. He's just joking. It's Trump for you. You know, like at some point it's like, no, it's not, right? And even if it is, why are we okay with that? Bill is also correct here, though. Have to give credit where it's due. And it shows the difference in respect for democracy from the two sides. Democrats, I mean, they have endless things they can point to. We have the fact that Republicans gerrymander far worse than we do, right? Like they gain dozens more seats than we do through it. We have how Republicans act to reject absentee and mail-in ballots in acts of suppression. This is something that played a huge role in 2024. There's reporting that could indicate millions of ballots that were discounted in this measure, yet you have no national uproar that is being caused by Democrats. You have no leading officials saying it was stolen. Kamala Harris hasn't gone on a campaign saying that the election was taken from me. No court cases have been opened. We had legitimate, proven Russian interference in 2016, and yet Democrats still conceded immediately. Meanwhile, Trump loses, not only knows that he lost, but knows that he was the only one who was trying to cheat in the election and still went on a 3-year campaign calling the election stolen, all without ever producing a shred of evidence, to the point where his base will still try to pretend it was stolen even after the fact that they won the very next election and Democrats weren't in power in the election they supposedly stole, and then were in power with the election that they supposedly let Trump win again. And then it's like, why would they steal an election supposedly to keep Trump out of power if they're just gonna put him back in power and let him win it again for you? None of it makes any sense, and it's almost impressive that Trump gets to get away with it.